7 years later, my ex showed up at my doorstep with a kid, demanding child support. Then my wife came out, and my life went to hell. Hey, this is going to be a pretty long post because there's a lot of context here. First, let me tell you a bit about my ex-girlfriend. My ex, Cindy, is 30 now. We were both 23 when we were together, and we dated for 4 years. We met in college, and after graduation, we rented an apartment and lived together for a year until she suddenly dumped me without any explanation. Cindy was a year older than me and was in her final year of college. I was too shy to approach her, so she took the initiative. She asked me out on a date. She was the first to say, "I love you," after 6 months of dating, and she was the one who suggested we move in together after college. She was just an amazing girl, except for one thing: complete insecurity. I don't know what it was about, maybe because I rarely took the initiative in our relationship or something like that, but she was constantly insecure and jealous. It drove her crazy when I talked to other girls, no matter who they were. So, after a couple of fights, I stopped talking to all my female friends because Cindy was more important to me than my friendships with other women. I cut ties not only with my college friends, but also with girls I'd known since school, people I'd been friends with for over 5 years at that point. Now I'm back in touch with them because Cindy's no longer in my life, and my wife is fine with my friends regardless of their gender. But back then, I only hung out with guys, and even then, I wasn't allowed to have guys' nights out because, according to Cindy, it would just be an excuse to go to bars, get drunk, and pick up someone. I thought it was unfair to me because she banned me from meeting anyone without her due to her insecurities. But I couldn't see how wrong it all was because I was too in love with her and thought she felt the same. She constantly told me how much she loved me, that she couldn't live without me, couldn't imagine a future without me, and all that stuff. So I stayed with her no matter what because I wanted to marry her and be with her. That's all I wanted back then. But over time, it became harder and harder to be with her because she got more and more suspicious and weird. When we were already living together, I couldn't do anything without her standing over my shoulder. She constantly checked my phone, tracked my movements, and if I didn't tell her where I was, she'd threaten to lock me out of the house. By now, you've probably figured out how toxic our relationship had become by the time we broke up. Somehow, I still found the strength to stay with her, but what's surprising is that she was the one who dumped me. We broke up over some trivial misunderstanding. One day, my sister unexpectedly dropped by without warning, as she usually did, so Cindy wouldn't suspect anything or think I was bringing some random women over. Cindy wasn't home at the time. She was at a friend's place because she was allowed to see her friends, but I wasn't allowed to suspect her of anything. So Lauren just showed up, and I was so surprised that I didn't even text Cindy to let her know my sister was there, as I usually did. We got to talking and spent about 2 hours together, but then her boss suddenly called and she had to rush back to work. The reason for our breakup was, unfortunately, a lipstick that Lauren left on the couch when she took it out to touch up her makeup before leaving. She was in a hurry and just forgot it there, and I didn't even notice it. Then Cindy came home literally a few minutes after Lauren left. She was in a good mood until she found the lipstick. I still remember it like it was yesterday. She sat on the couch, jumped up, grabbed the lipstick she'd sat on, and I instantly knew I was screwed because there was no way she'd just let it go. I tried to smooth things over and immediately told the truth, explaining that Lauren had stopped by during my lunch break, took out the lipstick to touch up before heading back to work, and forgot to put it back in her bag because she was in a rush. But, as I expected, Cindy didn't believe a single word. For a number of reasons, as she said, Lauren usually texted both of us in our group chat before coming over, but this time she didn't. Plus, Cindy thought it was highly unlikely that Lauren would even take out lipstick at our place since my sister doesn't really wear makeup. She was convinced I'd brought some other woman home and completely lost it. I'm not exaggerating. She went absolutely crazy. She started yelling at me, cursing, and throwing whatever she could get her hands on. First it was pillows, then she threw books on the floor while still screaming, and then she crossed the line when she grabbed the TV remote and threw it at me. I managed to duck and dodge it, but I realized it was time to get out. I bolted to the bedroom and locked myself inside. I didn't have my phone with me, so I couldn't call anyone for help. I just sat alone in the room for almost an hour while she screamed outside the door that I'd betrayed her. She was shrieking like a lunatic, and honestly, I was genuinely scared. Finally, the yelling started to die down, and I mustered the courage to go out and see what was happening. I noticed she was gone and the front door was wide open. I didn't text or call her for the next couple of hours, thinking she'd just gone for a walk to cool off. But when she didn't come back even by midnight, I started to worry and decided to call her. To my surprise, I noticed the call wasn't going through. After a couple of tries, I realized she'd blocked me. I tried texting, same result. I was blocked there too. She'd also removed me from all her social media. I started to panic and tried calling her friends, but they didn't pick up either. Apparently, I was blocked by them too. For the next few weeks, I tried endlessly to reach her, but she just ignored me. After almost a month of trying to find her, I gave up because I realized she didn't want me to find her. I was completely broken without her, and the following months were the hardest of my life. I don't know how I got through it all. I just went to work, came home, missed her, and pretended everything was fine. People tried to convince me I was better off without her, but I didn't feel that way. I moved out of that apartment a year later, trying to stay there because I thought maybe Cindy would come back, and if I stayed at the same address, she'd be able to find me. But when I finally moved out, I buried any hope of reuniting with her. We never got closure, and that's still the biggest pain for me. I was in a deep depression and tried not to talk to women after the breakup because I didn't want to feel like I was betraying Cindy. That changed when I met my current wife, Emmy, who's 27. She was my colleague and was really kind to me when I was new at work, not just to me, but to everyone in the office. She was beautiful, smart, and had an amazing personality. So despite all my efforts to stay away, I fell for her over a few months. I'd promised myself I'd never get into another relationship after Cindy, but everything changed when Emmy came along. We've been together for almost 4 years now, two of them married. I feel truly happy with her. And honestly, I'd completely forgotten about Cindy until recently when she suddenly showed up in my life again. It's been 7 years since our breakup, or rather since she just erased me from her life like I meant nothing to her over some petty fight. Last weekend, my wife and I were just chilling at home when someone rang the doorbell. I went to open it, and before I could even process who I was seeing, she practically shoved a little boy, who looked about 7, at me. Cindy demanded I immediately pay child support for the past 7 years. She went off on me without letting me get a word in, yelling that she'd been trying to find me for the last 7 years so her son could finally have a father. I just stood there silently while she screamed at me, accusing me of running away from responsibility and demanding I pay child support for the years she claimed I'd been dodging it. I had no idea how to react to any of this and just stood there like an idiot while she kept yelling. Obviously, I had nothing to do with this. I even waited for her to come back for a whole year after she suddenly disappeared. She's the one who dumped me, not the other way around. And I was 100% sure that kid wasn't mine. I only stayed silent because I was in complete shock. I was speechless. Realizing I'd been gone for a while, Emmy came out to see what was going on, and that's when everything flipped because as soon as Cindy saw my wife, the color drained from her face and it was clear she was in deep trouble. I didn't understand what was going on at the time, but it was obvious Cindy felt sick seeing Emmy, and Emmy herself looked very surprised to see her at our doorstep. Before I could even open my mouth, they started yelling at each other. I couldn't make out what the fight was about, but it was clear it was serious, and they already knew each other. They were practically at each other's throats, hurling the nastiest insults you could imagine, while I just stood there silently next to the kid, trying to make sense of anything. Finally, Emmy brought out the heavy artillery. She told Cindy that if she didn't leave immediately, she'd call the cops, and for Cindy, that clearly wasn't the best option. She looked rough, but in the end, she left, cursing us out and throwing nasty glares at both of us. When Emmy threatened to call the cops again, Cindy just turned and bolted. She grabbed her son as soon as she heard about the police and ran off as fast as she could. I had no idea what had just happened, but I figured Emmy would explain everything once Cindy was gone. And that's when things got really weird. As soon as Cindy left, Emmy turned to me and started yelling, saying, "How could you do this to me?" And, "I can't believe you hid this from me." I still didn't say anything and just stood there staring at her in complete confusion. I was totally baffled, and the accusations she was throwing at me made no sense to me. She was acting like I'd deliberately hidden the fact that I'd dated Cindy before, but I definitely didn't do that. I'd always been honest with Emmy and told her everything about my ex, so I didn't understand why she was reacting like this. The only thing I didn't do was show her a picture of Cindy, but that wasn't because I was hiding anything. It just happened that way. I lost my phone before moving to our new place, and that phone had all my pictures with Cindy. So when I lost it, I lost all those photos too. Plus, I'd already deleted most of our pictures from social media because it was too painful a reminder of what our relationship was like and how she just vanished from my life without explanation. In short, I deleted the photos of her from social media, then lost my phone, and all the pictures of her were gone because I didn't save them anywhere else. I didn't even try to recover them because, honestly, I thought it was for the best. Fewer reasons to think about her. A couple of group photos were still on my friends' accounts, but I asked them to take those down too. I just didn't want to see myself with her anymore. I would have shown those photos to Emmy if she'd ever asked, but she never did, and there was no point in digging through other people's albums looking for group shots of Cindy, especially since Emmy never showed any interest in what she looked like. So, in the end, I never showed Emmy what Cindy looked like. After that whole scene, Emmy said she wanted to go to her parents for a while to cool off, figure herself out, and maybe come back later. I begged her to stay, but she left anyway because, according to her, she just couldn't be in the same space as me right now and needed personal space to process all of this. I didn't even understand what she meant by all of this because she didn't explain anything to me. It all felt like some kind of deja vu from the past, a repeat of the Cindy situation. I was completely crushed at that moment, and it wasn't until the next day that I finally decided to make a couple of calls to try to figure out what the hell was going on. First, I called her parents, but they started going off on me, saying I should have told them about Cindy beforehand instead of letting it all come out like that out of nowhere. They gave me a good chewing out and then just hung up without explaining anything properly. Then I called Emmy's older sister. She was the only person left who might give me some kind of explanation. I was completely lost, and she was my last hope. When she answered, I didn't waste time and laid out everything that had happened. And that's when she told me the real story about how Emmy and Cindy knew each other. Turns out Cindy and Emmy are cousins. Cindy's real name is Cynthia. That's not their real names. I'm just using different ones, and I never called her that, so Emmy couldn't put two and two together. Apparently, Cindy was always a real piece of work and basically ruined Emmy's entire childhood. Things had been bad between them for a long time, but it all fell apart on Emmy's 18th birthday when Cindy slept with Emmy's boyfriend, who she'd been dating for almost 3 years. The whole family was furious. Emmy's mom, who's the sister of Cindy's mom, caused a huge scandal over Cindy's behavior. Naturally, each side defended their kid, and in the end, the families completely stopped talking. They cut off all contact. But the harassment didn't stop there because Cindy decided to get back at her cousin by spreading nasty rumors about her online. It got so bad that the parents had to step in again, and only then did Cindy finally leave Emmy alone. But only because her parents forced her to. The cousins hadn't spoken since, and now, years later, they crossed paths again because of me. After that conversation with Emmy's sister, it finally clicked why Emmy freaked out so much when she saw Cindy at our doorstep. That encounter with Cindy, or Cynthia as Emmy knew her, brought up painful memories for both of us. I talked to Emmy after that call, and it seems her sister talked to her too, because Emmy actually responded to me for the first time since all this started. She'd been ignoring my calls before that. I told Emmy I understood why she reacted that way, but it wasn't entirely my fault because she never asked or showed any interest in Cindy, and that made sense. It was all in the past, and she's my future. If she'd asked about Cindy even once, I would have shown her a picture right away, and we would have figured this all out long ago. I tried to calmly explain my point of view, but for some reason, she still thinks I'm to blame, that I should have told her more about my past relationship, and then maybe she would have asked something herself, and we would have found out about all this sooner. I just didn't understand what exactly I did wrong and told her that. In response, she got even angrier and stopped talking to me, saying I'm clueless and self-centered. She added that she had a horrible experience with Cindy and expected me to understand her. I replied that I had a horrible experience with her too, but I didn't see Emmy trying to understand me. That seemed to really hit her because she said, well, congrats. You won the contest for who had the worst ex, and hung up. Since then, she hasn't answered my calls or texts, and I feel like I completely screwed everything up. My wife doesn't usually lose it like that, so obviously this is a really painful and sensitive topic for her. But damn it, it's the same for me, so blaming me alone is at least unfair, especially when I don't even fully understand what I did wrong. The only thing I'm glad about is that Cindy hasn't shown up again because if she keeps poking her nose into my life, this whole mess will only get worse. Update 1. Hey guys, first of all, thanks to everyone for the advice and comments on what I should do. I'm really grateful to everyone who wrote something. For those who asked if my wife ever mentioned being bullied in the past, no, she never did. She never talked about her childhood, and I only found out about it after talking to my sister-in-law. I understand it's not my fault, but I still decided to take the initiative and go to my wife's parents' house. I wanted to save this relationship and knew that if I wanted to be with Emmy, I had to try to fix everything, even if I wasn't to blame. Because we're fighting the problem together, not each other. Yesterday, I finally visited her after almost a week of silence, and both Emmy and her parents were pretty surprised to see me at their doorstep. But I didn't wait for their reaction. As soon as the door opened, I hugged Emmy tightly. She was a bit taken aback but hugged me back, and we just stood there hugging for a few minutes without saying a word. This week was tough for both of us, and we both realized we just wanted to be together. Who's right or wrong didn't matter anymore. As soon as I let her go, she immediately apologized to me and broke down crying, because, as it turns out, she seriously thought she'd lost me for good because of her meltdown after Cindy's visit, and how she acted after leaving home. She admitted she was completely irrational and unfair and kept apologizing. Her parents and I comforted her while she sobbed loudly. It was nice to see that she realized her behavior was a bit unfair to me, but at the same time I felt guilty for not reaching out to her sooner since that's what pushed her over the edge. When I finally showed up yesterday, we talked everything through, she packed her things, and came back home with me. So we're back home together. I can't say everything's completely back to normal, but we're working on it and trying to process everything that happened over the past week, including Cindy's visit. But we'll still figure out what that was all about. Update 2. Hey folks, we finally figured out why Cindy showed up. No surprises, she wanted money. She made that clear as soon as she appeared, demanding child support for a kid I had absolutely no connection to, internally or externally. Emmy and my sister-in-law made a bunch of calls to get to the bottom of what's going on with her, since their families haven't spoken in years. They found out the kid isn't mine, obviously, Turns out she was dating some guy for a few years. What's more, I'm almost certain she was cheating on me with him in the last months of our relationship. I don't have proof, of course, but it all adds up. She dumped me over the stupidest reason and then just erased me from her life like I never existed. So it makes sense that she already had someone else lined up to take my place as soon as she left me. Most likely, she was already pregnant when she left me and was just looking for an excuse to bail. The situation with my sister was the most convenient way to do it. Most of her relatives knew about that other guy, but I was forbidden from talking to her family unless Cindy was there, so I didn't know anything and would have never found out if she hadn't made the massive mistake of showing up at my place trying to guilt trip me into giving her money. As it turns out, that guy dumped her a couple of months ago. She quit her job when she started dating him and had a kid, so she had no savings and the money ran out. He did to her exactly what she did to me, just vanished without explanation. Now she's barely scraping by. Her parents refuse to help her because they're saving for retirement, and if they start supporting her and her kid, they won't have enough for themselves. Sure, how selfish. But now it's clear why she was so hysterical and desperate after that encounter with Emmy at my place. No one in Cindy's family has seen her since, but I'm sure someone will either find her, try to help her, or just report her to the police because, according to rumors, she's already scammed a couple of people for money. Those are just rumors for now, but after what she tried to pull with me, I wouldn't be surprised if it's true. Update 3. We decided to go to couples therapy and also start individual sessions. Turns out, we hadn't dealt with our past as well as we thought. One appearance from Cindy was enough to send our lives to hell. We couldn't let that happen again, so we made that decision. As for Cindy, according to some relatives, she's now living with some new guy she met online just a few days ago, but he's already head over heels for her and asked her to move in with him. Her parents are in complete despair over how she's acting, and even more so because she told them they no longer have the right to see their grandson. I'm not taking her side, of course, but honestly, what did they expect? They turned their backs on her when she needed them, and now they think everything's going to be fine? That's just ridiculous. They always covered for her behavior, both toward me and Emmy. Her parents were never particularly nice people, and she's just like them. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and Cindy's living proof of that. Emmy and I just feel genuinely sorry that her kid has to suffer because of all her terrible decisions. So, that's the end of the story. Share your thoughts about it in the comments. I thought it didn't need explaining, but apparently it does. I'm fully on the author's side. But there's one thing I don't agree with him on. He says her parents are bad for not helping her. But hold on, in every case, they supported her. So what should they have done? Maybe he's blaming them for being inconsistent, like they cover for her here, but when real help with money is needed, they don't step up. Yeah, there's that, but on the other hand, they support her morally as much as they can. But with money, it's pretty clear that if they keep helping her financially, she'll probably just squander it, and they'll be left with nothing. So, in theory, it's probably completely logical behavior. Or maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments.